So what will you say if somebody says, ¿Qué es vida consciente? What is it?
Entonces, ¿qué le diríamos a alguien que pregunta, ¿qué es vida consciente?
What will you say? Not a big, long explanation, a short explanation.
No,
¿Qué es vida consciente? What is...
algo corto, una respuesta corta.
Searching the truth.
Okay? What will you say?
Buscar por la verdad.
To try to look inside of oneself.
Okay. You just hear, what will you say? Say what you just said also in Spanish.
Que tratar de buscar dentro de uno mismo.
To open the eyes to find the truth.
See? Shamna, what would you say? Be prepared. It gets harder as you go around. All the good answers to get taken right away.
Que sean preparados porque es más difícil cuando se juega.
No, I won't ask everybody, just one or two more.
Encontrar la verdad absoluta.
To find the absolute truth.
Ananga,
Estar más atento a lo que haces cada día.
To be more attentive of what you do every day.
okay. Right. So all these are correct answers,
Todas son respuestas correctas.
but you will hear parts that are almost similar from, say, some other vida consciente groups. Many people are using this conscious living vida consciente. And the first one they will say is the one that Nanda said, to be aware of your activities, conscious what you're doing. You're doing good, you're doing bad, you're harming the environment, or you're giving back to the environment. Conscious living. Well, higher thinking will pursue the lines of searching for truth, looking within, etc. So those are all good answers.
Todas son buenas respuestas, pero se parece mucho, o es lo que dirían también otro tipo de grupos que están en búsqueda de eso, de la conciencia, y la primera respuesta que dirían tal vez sería la que dio Ananga, prestar atención en tus actividades diarias para después tratar de encontrar la verdad y buscar dentro de uno mismo.
So then someone might say, well, if everybody gives a similar answer to what you people give, then what's the difference?
Y esa persona que te está preguntando diría, estos otros grupos también dicen lo mismo. Entonces, ¿qué hay de diferencia entre ti y ellos?
In other words, what's the difference between us and other, people who are striving for vida consciente, conscious living?
Entonces, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre nosotros y otras personas que están tratando de tener una vida consciente?
Well, there are two things. Both are important. The first one is we add con Krishna.
Son dos cosas y las dos son importantes. La primera es que le añadimos con Krishna.
But someone might say, well, we're not talking about con Krishna. We're just talking about vida consciente. What's the difference between your conscious living and others?
Pero esa persona te va a decir, bueno, pero no estamos hablando de con Krishna, no estamos hablando de una vida consciente, entonces, ¿cuál es la diferencia?
But primero, we add Krishna, conscious living with Krishna.
Bueno, la primera ya fue, añadimos Krishna, vida consciente con Krishna.
However, somebody may say, we have vida consciente con Jesús,
Y alguien diría, tenemos vida consciente con Jesús,
con Allah, con Buddha. Huh? So many people. But we have one answer that almost you can say nobody gives.
pero tenemos una respuesta que tal vez seguramente nadie da.
Only the devotees of Krishna really give this answer.
Solo devotos de Krishna dan esta respuesta.
Conscious living means to live with the understanding that you are not this body.
La respuesta es de que los vida consciente es el de entender que no somos este cuerpo.
So you give that answer first. Because if you say, well, we add con Krishna, then they just go, KS Krishna. Well, that's good, but you missed a very important point. So you give the first answer is to live with the understanding that we are not this body which is made of the 8 material elements.
Esa es la primera respuesta que se da, es que ser conscientes que no somos este cuerpo hecho de los 8 elementos materiales.
Understand? Catch that point? Then you can add everything after that. And the conscious living in search for truth. And the conscious living to be aware of your activities. Are you harming other living beings? Are you hurting the environment? Are you doing good? Are you doing bad? And with Krishna. But the first important understanding, the difference is that we live in the consciousness of Aham Brahmasmi. We are spirit soul. We are not this body. We are Atma. We are pure consciousness. And we live in a dual world of matter and consciousness. It's not good enough just to live a conscious life, conscious material life. You're conscious of whatever it is, particularly these days, the environment or the rights, human rights, and conscious of all these things. This will all equal 0 in the end if we didn't take the first correct step, and that is to understand that we are not this material body.
Esta fue la primera respuesta y ya después se puede añadir lo de la vida consciente con el medio ambiente, con otros seres vivientes, pero solamente el ser consciente del medio ambiente, seres vivientes, etc., no va a significar un 0 a la hora de la muerte cuando no comprendimos que no somos este cuerpo, porque no va a valer.
Now, if you want to do something that's very revolutionary for carrying out the message of Krishna consciousness to the public, do you like to do that? I'm asking a question.
Sí.
Sí.
Que si queremos hacer algo revolucionario, como brindar el mensaje a la gente de conciencia de Krishna.
Yeah, to bring out that consciousness of Krishna, the Vida Consciente and the Vida Consciente con Krishna. Very nice way to do that is what we're doing here. But you add to that what we call, or what is called, street drama.
Es algo muy bonito como lo estamos haciendo aquí, ahorita, pero también es algo muy bueno añadirle lo que le llamamos un drama de la callejero.
It is so popular, but it takes a little bit of mastery, a little bit of practice. And this street drama has been performed in temples, ashrams, and on the streets for thousands of years.
Y toma un poco de experiencia, pero esto se ha hecho por muchísimo tiempo. Este drama callejero en templos, en ashrams, en la calle.
In India, it took the form of classical drama, classical dance. And these were ways of telling the stories of Krishna and Rama, and even the stories of great pious kings. And in this way, communicating to the people right, wrong, good, evil, and spiritual knowledge and spiritual consciousness.
En India esto tomó la forma de teatro. Con el teatro explicaron el bien y el mal, así varias cosas de Krishna, etcétera, etcétera.
In Estados Unidos, in New York City, it became so popular, the devotees rose up all the way to Broadway.
En Nueva York los devotos se fueron hasta Broadway con este método.
They had many little short plays. Short plays means it will last 3 to 7 minutes, maybe 10 maximum, on the street, in the park, in the plaza, in El Centro.
Eran funciones muy cortas, de unos 7 minutos, las presentaban en el parque.
The drama, which made it all the way up to Broadway, was called The Age of Kali.
La función que se hizo muy popular hasta Broadway se llamaba La Era de Cali.
It was well over an hour performance,
Pasaba la hora.
maybe an hour and a half. I think they had two versions, a shorter version and a full version, maybe dos horas for the full version. And that included elaborate costume, singing, music, all of these things. You may even find some YouTube clips of it called The Age of Kali.
Tal vez podemos encontrar unos videos en YouTube. Duraba la versión larga hasta más de 2 horas con vestidos elaborados, música.
However, the most effective one was on the street.
Pero el más efectivo fue en la calle.
The short street performed in the park, in the plazas, and on the big streets. That was the most effective, the short one.
Las versiones cortas fueron muy populares.
And at the end of each of these skits, these dramas, when the time they were over, there would be anywhere from 10 to 100 people standing there watching.
Cuando hacían estos obras, había más de 100 personas mirándolos.
Because it doesn't happen on a stage. It happens right in the middle of what's going on.
Porque lo hacían en la calle en donde está pasando todo.
And at the end of each one, the devotee would step forward and explain what was the meaning.
Al terminar, un devoto se paraba enfrente de todos y explicaba el significado.
I'll explain you one, simple one.
Explicar uno.
Everyone's sitting around here in El Centro, around the fountain, you know, and it's just everyone's sitting around, everyone's doing their thing. And all of a sudden, a woman drops to her knees and yells, "I'm drowning! I'm drowning! I'm drowning!"
Es como si en el centro aquí, al lado de la fuente, una mujer se cayera, se hincara y empezara a decir, me estoy ahogando, me estoy ahogando.
Okay, the first thing everybody looks and goes, "You're crazy."
Todos pensarían, lo primero es que está loca.
Then a man jumps up on a park bench and yells, "Don't worry, I'll save you."
Después
And everybody looks over here.
un hombre dice, no se preocupen, yo la salvo.
Then he dives in
Se va nadando
and he swims over to the lady.
y alcanza a la mujer.
And she's wearing a coat, some sort of a coat. And he takes off her coat.
Le quita el saco que tenía puesto la mujer.
She drops down the sidewalk as dead. And he swims away with the coat in his mouth and takes it back and says, I saved you.
El hombre agarra el saco, la mujer se queda como si estuviera ya muerta. Se va el hombre nadando y le dice al saco, te salvé.
At this point, the devotee steps forward and gives some explanation.
En este momento es cuando el devoto da la explicación.
And the explanation is, in this world, everyone is identified with this body.
En este mundo todos están identificados con este cuerpo.
I forget how, it takes some development, and that explains that this man has simply saved the body, but has neglected the soul within. The soul is dying in this world.
Y explica el hombre cómo estaba preocupado por salvar el cuerpo, que es el chaleco, y siendo negligentes con el alma, que era la mujer.
You may even find some of these dramas a little better than I can pretend it on YouTube. They're very popular, and if you have the talent, they develop into nice various types of skits with a philosophical ending or a moral ending or something like that.
Si se tiene el
Not
talento.
something like that, not political. See, people use these things for political drama, satire, they call it, and all these things. And these are very, very nice ways to just grab people's attention. And especially after that, devotees would pass out sweets, little dulces, cards. Understand?
Ya después de esto, Bueno, si se tiene talento se puede hacer algo muy bonito con un mensaje filosófico. Y ya cuando terminaban daban los devotos tarjetas, algún dulcecito.
You can even find, I mean, street drama is a popular thing in all big cities of the world. I see in India, in Mexico, these mimes are very popular. Yesterday we saw a vaquero who was all spray painted with gold paint. Yeah?
Aquí en México he visto mucho de estas estatuas humanas.
So these street activities very popular. If amongst you have the bravery, you have to be brave to do those things, and you have some talent. It involves singing, it involves philosophy, some drama, it involves humor, and people gather around, they laugh. But it's not just that. You have to have other things. You have to have some prashad to give the people, some information, a mantra card, things like that. You have to see what other people are doing and adapt that also, if it works for you. I'm not saying you must do it, but it's just one more thing that devotees have done very successfully all over the years for decades, and it's been done for centuries, and it's been done for millennia in India.
Este es un método más que los devotos han usado, y lo han usado porque se ha hecho durante cientos de años en India, durante milenios, porque... Sí.
Another thing, and so the person announces to the people, the main thing, you are not this body.
Lo que anuncia el devoto es que no somos este cuerpo.
So then un otro devotee shouts, then whose body am I?
Y otro devoto por allá grita, entonces, ¿de qué cuerpo soy?
And you create a dialogue between two people, but nobody knows what's what. The public doesn't it just kind of happens first. It's like, oh, this lady's drowning, and then this guy swims and saves her, and then another guy explains the philosophy, and then another person who's a devotee in the crowd, he shouts, well, then if I'm not this body, whose body am I? And they say, Señor, come here. And they come, and then there's this further dialogue.
Entonces ya sí se crea un diálogo, ¿no? Entre dos devotos, pero que el público no sabe bien qué está pasando.
It takes creativity.
Es más de afinidad. Y antes decía que, pues, si se quiere hacer, que se necesita valentía para hacerlo, porque envuelve canto, la filosofía, actuación.
And these are also have been, and from India to the present day, performed inside ashrams and temples also.
También se ha presentado estos teatros dentro de ashrams.
There are the serious types, where you just take like something from Chaitanya Charitamrita or some story from Bhagavatam, and you summarize it, you make it into a drama. And that's more for like the temple or the ashram. But for the street, the more like avant-garde, the more like shocking and gripping, but the philosophy is there, because no one has heard this in their life. There's an 80-year-old person standing over there, or a 15-year-old person, a 20-year-old person starting to think, this world sucks. Looking around, because nobody told him, you don't belong here. You're not this body. That's not who you are. You have to enter self-realization to know who you are. That's your message. And it's like, oh, wow. That is a revolutionary statement. You are not the body. It's not taught anywhere in the world. The churches don't teach it, that's for sure. It's a body-conscious religion. A little bit in Buddhism, of course. But Buddhism doesn't conclude you are Atma. You are nada. That sucks. I like being some of the time, at least. No, Buddhism says you are nothing. You are not. There is a Buddhist meditation. The meditation is anatma. 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 I am nothing. I am not conscious. I am not conscious. I am not conscious. Buddhism doesn't accept consciousness as reality. It's just another illusion.
el budismo no acepta conciencia, es solo otro tipo de ilusión. Y lo decía porque el budismo sí explica un poquito que no somos este cuerpo, pero hasta ahí nada más. En ningún lugar se habla acerca de no somos este cuerpo, la iglesia no lo dice. Entonces es muy revolucionario para la gente en la calle, ya sea de 80 años o de 6 años, de 15 años. Esto no lo dice nadie.
So in the end, the speaker says, so we invite you, invite you if you like to learn the process to realize your eternal self, then please come, we'll give you one card and everything. And then in this way you're fishing. Yes. If I was a kid standing there when I was 20, I'd have went, whoa. I did. That's I heard this was going on, and I heard there's a spiritual world. People have spiritual bodies. I thought, wow, a spiritual world, spiritual bodies. I thought that was something wonderful. ¿Cómo?
Que así se puede compartir e invitar el que diciendo eso que no somos este cuerpo que y dice que él sí él lo hizo cuando era joven, escuchó hablar de que había un mundo espiritual con cuerpos espirituales y pues es lo que lo atrajo.
So these purports, these particular verses about the material elements, the 8 material elements, that makes up this whole universe.
Y estos versos en particular, que son los que hablan acerca de los elementos materiales, estos 8 elementos, es lo que hacen todo el universo.
But that is all material. These are all material elements. Even mind and intelligence are material elements.
Pero todos estos elementos son materiales, incluso la mente y la inteligencia.
Behind the scene of the material elements is the Atma,
Detrás de todo lo material está el Atma,
the eternally conscious being.
el ser eternamente eterno,
And amongst all
consciente.
the hundreds of millions of billions of trillions of conscious beings, there's one supremely conscious being.
Entre todos los miles y miles de millones de seres vivientes,
Millions and millones de millones de millones.
hay un ser supremo consciente.
There's one supreme conscious being, that is Krishna.
Hay un ser supremo consciente que es Krishna.
So people ask you, ¿qué es this vida consciente con Krishna? Explain, please. What does it mean? So it begins with who we are, by first who we are not. You don't have a soul. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. There's a difference. In Christianity, a soul is like a record book. Good one, oops, sorry, bad one. It's just like a ledger book.
Así es como se viene la primera respuesta de si alguien pregunta ¿qué es vida consciente? Que es el que no somos este cuerpo. Y para explicar eso también hay que decir qué es lo que somos y qué es lo que no somos. No tenemos un alma, somos esa alma.
So it's always good when you're talking to people. En español, ¿cómo se dice soul? Like in alma. Alma. Try to avoid that word. Does she use the word alma in the translations much? Well, sometimes it's hard to avoid, especially when talking.
Que tratemos de no utilizar mucho la palabra alma, pero pues a veces sí es imposible.
But nowadays, even the modern Sanskrit scholars are very clear that Atma and soul, the word soul or alma, these are not the same. It is something completely different. They've researched all the definitions. It means soul in English or alma, and it's like, or Latin even. No. Atma is different.
Pero los intelectuales modernos después de estudiar las definiciones de lo que es el alma, a comparación de Atma, encuentran que no es lo mismo, es muy diferente.
But you'll find in Prabhupada's books, he used the word soul for simplicity's sake, and there soul means Atma. He means Atma. But in the world, where the word came from, soul is a different thing.
Podemos ver que en los libros de Prabhupada él utilizó mucho la palabra alma, pero solo por cuestiones prácticas de referirse a lo que es el Atma. Pero lo que el mundo habla de alma, eso es muy diferente a lo que en verdad es el Atma.
So when you say Atma and you define it as individual consciousness, then you find yourself explaining what is conscious, what is the nature of consciousness.
Cuando explicamos entonces lo que es Atma, que es conciencia individual, entonces se tiene que explicar qué es conciencia.
One is individual. And always, once having been, it always exists. We've existed forever, and we will continue to exist forever after the now is over. Nobody explains this in any religious gathering in the world outside Vaishnavism.
La conciencia, cuando existe la conciencia, es que ha existido por siempre. No tuvo comienzo y seguirá existiendo después de la hora. Nadie explica esto en otro tipo de religión.
When you discuss the eternality of the soul, you also then come to discuss karma.
Cuando estamos explicando, discutiendo qué es
The consequence of your actions.
Cuando se está como platicando, argumentando sobre temas del alma, viene como automático también temas acerca del karma.
And here is a big problem all over the world, is the leaders of the world, and everybody is living with, you only live once, man, enjoy it while you can. And then a little sentiment, para mis niños and niñas, for my children, a little bit, but whatever, it's like they're tough luck. They think a little bit for their children, how to have a good life for their children. What happens 10 generations from now? They don't really care. But when they understand, I have to come back, huh? In this hell that I'm making now, I have to come back, then maybe I change my way of living.
Y es el problema en este mundo que se piensa que porque no explican los líderes religiosos que nada más tenemos una vida y ya, hasta ahí se acabó. Entonces las personas dicen, pues es tiempo de disfrutar esta vida al máximo. No importa lo de los demás, solo poquito para mis hijos. Pero cuando se les explica que tal vez puedes, más bien que tienes que regresar a este mundo y a este infierno del cual lo estás creando ahora, entonces así tal vez sí pueden cambiar un poco de acciones que están haciendo ahorita.
Now, many people have heard that God is a person. Many people have heard that God is a person.
Muchas personas han escuchado que Dios es una persona,
But no one has heard that you're not that body.
pero nadie escucha que tú no eres este cuerpo.
But the difference is about the person. We have so much detail about that person. And they have no detail about that person. Except he's mean, nasty, and don't want to piss him off. Because he'll cook you in oil forever.
Pero en otros lugares no tienen ¿cómo se dice? Detalles de quién es esta persona suprema, pero aquí están todos los detalles. Solo lo único que explican es que es muy enojón y te tienes que portar bien porque si no te va a castigar y te va a hervir, a cocinar en aceite por siempre, si es que la riegas.
But he has on his door, all merciful God.
Pero en su puerta tiene el Dios todo misericordioso.
except for those guys.
excepto por aquellos.
So, and when you begin to discuss with people the nature of God, the quality of God, nobody has anything to say, even close to the Krishna conception.
Pero cuando se explica acerca de las cualidades de Dios, en otros lugares no tienen ni... ¿Cómo?
Ni un concepto ni cerca al quien es Krishna.
How can the all-merciful God torture his creation, the people? How can he torture them forever for the mistakes in one lifetime?
¿Cómo es que este Dios puede castigar eternamente a su propia creación, que son sus hijos, los humanos, por un error en la vida?
It should say, the sometimes merciful God.
Debería de decir el a veces misericordioso.
That's on Wednesdays and Sundays.
Solo los jueves y sábados.
The rest of the time, we're going to be careful.
El resto del tiempo hay que tener cuidado.
So when you can actually engage someone in a progressive conversation, then we have many revolutionary things, many revolutionary questions, and many revolutionary answers that absolutely nobody else in the world outside Krishna consciousness has. They don't have those.
Si es que podemos envolver a una persona en una plática progresiva, pues en la conciencia de Krishna se han dado muchas respuestas y preguntas muy revolucionarias.
So be prepared when you open the door a little bit and go out to the public. People are out there with questions. People are out there looking for the answers that you should have, that we have.
Y hay que estar preparados cuando abramos tantito la puerta y queramos salir, porque la gente tiene muchas preguntas y está lista.
So you have to be prepared.
Hay que estar preparados.
Now the problem is when we live as 7 days of the week and all of a sudden 5 o'clock Sunday sit down, boom, one kirtan, one lecture, you're only just like cracking the door and then, you go shut again and it's the service and everything. That's good. But to go deep into Bhagavad Gita, you just can't crack it for a few minutes on Sunday and then close it and have a nice prasadam. You can live happily like that. But when the people come with the questions, you'll find, I should study more. I need to learn more.
Está bien que pues, durante un ratito, un día a la semana, estemos teniendo aquí programas, el kirtan y un poco de lectura de Bhagavad Gita, pero es solo como asomarse tantito. Pero cuando personas vienen y empiezan a preguntar, pensaríamos, hubiera estudiado más.
Okay. But I wanted to give you some additions to your morning, weekly, some suggestions to your morning and weekly spiritual program.
Quiere darnos unas sugerencias para nuestros programas espirituales.
So we set aside like 1 hour for japa because I very much emphasize that japa is very important. When all things are lost, for most of us, it's the beads that will keep you here. Your beads. Not my beads, your beads. Chant your beads.
Dice que él da mucha importancia a lo que es el canto con la yapa y vamos a tener una hora de canto con la yapa.
Because it's not the beads, it's the holy name that we chant on the beads.
Claro que no son las cuentas, sino es el santo nombre que cantamos en las cuentas.
So it is the holy name that will keep you close to Krishna.
Es el santo nombre lo que nos va a mantener más cerca de Krishna.
Because the holy name of Krishna and Krishna himself, they're not different.
Y es porque Krishna y su santo nombre no tienen diferencia.
The only problem or the only space is the difference in our understanding or realization. We have some less realization, so Krishna, Krishna's name, Krishna's photo. We're still progressing in realization to understand what is Krishna, to what is Krishna Nam. But they are not different.
La única diferencia que podríamos encontrar es que no tenemos o tenemos una autorrealización hasta un cierto grado. Y es cuando nos preguntamos qué es Krishna o qué diferencia tiene con su foto o su nombre. Es porque no hemos avanzado mucho.
Kali Kali Namarupe Krishna Avatar. In the age of Kali, Krishna comes. The avatar of Krishna is Nama. Nama. The holy name is the incarnation. Some people say, why doesn't God come and do something? The world's so messed up. It's like, oh, guess what? He did. He's here in the form of his name. And the chanting of his name purifies the chanter. It purifies the people who hear it. Even if they try to cover their ears, the name enters between the fingers and enters the ear. It goes down.
Y que Krishna va a aparecer en esta era a través de su nombre. Y alguien podría decirme, ¿por qué no viene Dios a arreglar las cosas que pasan en este mundo? Pero sí, Dios ha venido y está aquí, está en su nombre.
So, we designed a minimal spiritual program because in order to have a community, in a community with 2 million people, it used to be water was free. No free nada. Water costs money. Everything costs. To have a community, to live. And if we don't have a way to earn together, then we'll have to separate. And at 7 o'clock, everyone will be going to a different job. And where will the community be? Then only on Sunday. So I'm emphasizing for now, a small spiritual program. If you have more, you get up earlier, that's good, but minimum, that 1 hour, correct? Okay. But now I want to change that 1 hour a little bit. Let's go.
Que pues queremos vivir en una comunidad que aquí en Querétaro son unos 2 millones de personas. Y para hacer eso, pues todo ya cuesta, el agua cuesta, la luz cuesta. Y tenemos que tener una forma para tener ingresos. Y por eso había recomendado que tengamos para empezar sencillo 1 hora de canto de yapa, de lo que va a cambiar eso un poco.
In most bigger ashrams and such around the world, it's between 2.5 and 3.5 hours spiritual program every day. 7 days a week, plus Sunday, plus.
En templos grandes, ashrams alrededor del mundo, el programa espiritual diario dura de 2:30 a 3 horas y media, pero eso es aparte de los programas dominicales.
But for now, we're working on a 1 hour spiritual program.
Ahorita vamos a empezar con un programa de 1 hora.
So I want you to put the first 45 minutes for the japa and the last 15 minutes for a kirtan.
Los primeros 45 minutos va a ser de yapa y los últimos 15 para kirtan.
Now, if the person's leading the kirtan, don't have to immediately end at that and go for the routes or go. They have some extra time. They can keep singing beyond 15 minutes. People can be in the kitchen working. People can be over here packing the boxes, and it only takes 2 people to lead the kirtan here, and everybody else can be singing along with it. In other words, the holy name in kirtan is also muy importante.
Y es muy importante el canto del santo nombre en el kirtan. Y esos 15 minutos no quiere decir que ya 15 minutos se acabó, vamos a callarnos. Si unas personas pueden seguir cantando mientras los otros están en la cocina o empacando, pues eso está muy bien.
And then you'll go out the door dancing on your routes.
Así se van a ir a vender bailando.
Okay. Now, on that point, I want to add one instruction, and that's for everybody who's here in Querétaro, in this center ashram. and also for the devotees visiting from Huejutla.
Él va a añadir también una cosa más a los devotos que están aquí en Querétaro y los de Huacutla.
Can anybody guess what that is?
¿Saben a alguien que quisiera adivinar qué es?
We had chanting for 20 minutes, maybe what? We were chanting for half an hour, some nice kirtan, some nice chants, but something was missing.
Que pues ya estuvimos cantando hace rato muy bonito, unos 20 minutos, media hora, pero dijo que algo faltó.
It may seem like a small thing, but actually it's a big thing.
Que pareciera una cosa pequeña, pero es algo muy grande.
What do you think? What do you think it was?
Offering.
This is the offering. Offering also important. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm saying good answer.
¿Qué podrá hacer?
Anybody
Si la
else?
ofrenda también es
What was
importante.
missing? No, your old timers don't get a chance. You get your chance when you're on this side. Something was missing.
¿Qué es lo que faltó?
Want to risk it, Jai Dave?
Proper attire?
Huh?
Proper dress?
No.
No.
The
Oh.
Panchatattva Mahamantra.
Ah,
Very important. It's one thing to say Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jai Prabhupada, all these things. In fact, in my day, we never had Jai Guru Maharaj Kirtans, no Jai Prabhupada Kirtans. These are just, that's not wrong or anything. But when the most important part gets slipped away, that means we have to fine tune the understanding. The Mahamantra, in the beginning, after the Om Agna prayer, or if there's if somebody is really good at singing extended Guru Parampara prayers, that's all right, but at least that shortened, we call it the shorthand, Guru mantras, Om Agna. The next mantra is the Panchatattva Mahamantra, it's called. Panchatattva Mahamantra. We have one recording of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and it's come up as a topic of debate, and some devotees are waiting for my explanation, where he said that even chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra is greater and more important than chanting the Mahamantra. So some people were suggesting maybe they well, I don't know what they're suggesting. They're waiting for me to write some opinion about what did he mean. And okay.
Que lo que faltó, que es una cosa pequeña pero muy importante, es el canto del Panchatattva Mahamantra, que ese es despuesito del Om Agna, es el segundo mantra, y se puede extender más el principio, pero es muy importante. Una vez se empezó a decir que este Panchatattva Mahamantra es incluso más importante que el propio Mahamantra, y entonces estaba en una clase y estaban esperando a que Guru Maharaj dara una explicación.
The Mahamantra isn't something that came from this world. It comes from the spiritual world. Golokara Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. The holy name comes from the spiritual world.
El Mahamantra, el santo nombre, desciende del mundo espiritual.
And the Panchatattva, they are the ones who brought it here.
Y el Panchatattva, ellos son los que trajeron ese Mahamantra.
In other words, the Panchatattva is giving the pure name of Krishna.
En otras palabras, el Panchatattva es lo que nos está dando el santo nombre.
Physically, they came and did that 500 years ago.
Físicamente lo hicieron hace como 500 años.
And the Parampara has been delivering the same holy name of Krishna ever since, for the last 500 years.
Y el Parampara, la sucesión discipular, lo ha hecho durante todos estos años.
It's like introducing a stage program. The announcer, the acharya, the steps up and introduces to you the group that has come here that is going to give you the program. Understand? It's kind of a reverse osmosis kind of a thing. It's like it came down this way and now it goes back. In order to contact, you go back through the same channel.
Es como para un programa que se va a tener, que la Acharya va a presentar al grupo que está viniendo para dar la función.
Think of it in terms of like El Chapo's escape tunnel. It leads to freedom. The Panchatattva leads to the pure name of Krishna.
Así como el túnel del Chapo lo llevó a la liberación, así el Panchatattva nos lleva hacia la pureza del canto del santo nombre.
The Panchatattva protects us from the offenses against the name of Krishna.
El Panchatattva nos libera de alguna ofensa que hagamos cantando el santo nombre.
These are not just mantras like some people think of mantras. These are protections. By chanting the Panchatattva mantra, the mantras work and put us in the right consciousness to approach Krishna.
Para eso es los mantras, no como otras personas piensan que para eso son los mantras. El mantra es para poner nuestra conciencia y dirigirla de manera correcta para después poder cantar el santo nombre.
If Prabhupada was here, he would have stopped the kirtan.
Si Prabhupada hubiera estado aquí para el kirtan,
And you would have heard this talk way back when we were chanting. He would have stopped the beautiful harmonium kirtan. He would have stopped number 9. He would have stopped the kirtan.
hubiera parado el kirtan y hubiera empezado esta plática desde ese momento.
And then he would have called me to his room.
Y luego lo hubiera mandado llamar a su cuarto.
And the question would be, what are you teaching these people?
Y la pregunta hubiera sido, ¿qué le estás enseñando a esta gente?
Haven't I taught you better? Understand? He would say, haven't I taught me? If I'm teaching you, he would question what I've learned. Understand? That's how important it is.
Y es muy importante porque le hubiera dicho, ¿qué te he enseñado mal para que ellos no lo hubieran cantado correctamente?
So after the Guru mantras, however short or however long, the next mantra, if you're going to chant the Panchatattva, if you're going to chant the holy names of Krishna, is the Panchatattva mantra. And if you want to know how long, well, as long as you like, but at least 2 or 3 times. I have been in Panchatattva kirtans in Gaudiya Math, lasted 45 minutes. 45 minutes of just the Panchatattva mantra before we even got to the Maha mantra, but also the prayers before Prasadam in Gaudiya Math can also last 45 minutes.
Que no importa qué tan corto o largo sea el principio, pero antes de empezar a cantar el Maha Mantra se tiene que cantar el Panchatattva Maha Mantra, que por lo menos unas 3 veces, y dice que él ha estado en lugares que lo han cantado hasta 45 minutos.
Now, sometimes that might, every time you go to chant, say you were chanting something from the public or in a skit, a lot of times these street dramas end in a little bit of chanting. Well, there you don't have to always do the Panchatattva mantra. But to do proper bhajan yourself, Panchatattva mantra should always be. Better to overuse it than underuse it.
Tal vez para el canto allá en la calle o con público no es necesario siempre cantar el Panchatattva, pero para hacer un kirtan correctamente, un vayan, entonces se tiene que cantar.
Some devotees practice all over the world, not everybody. Some do, some don't. It's not a hard and fast rule. Between every round of japa, they chant the Panchatattva mantra once. Sometimes I do, most of the times I don't. But some people do. Or they begin, but before I chant my japa, I chant the Panchatattva mantra at least once in the morning.
Que antes de cantar la yapa también se dice el Panchatattva. Algunas personas en cada ronda lo recitan. A veces unas personas lo hacen, a veces otras no, pero siempre al empezar.
Someone says, oh, You mean if I sing a bhajan, then I have to chant the Guru mantra and Panchatattva mantra before I chant the Maha mantra? Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you can do that. That's good. Then you sing another bhajan. Bhajan means the song. Then again, I'm going to chant Hare Krishna. Again, I have to do the Guru Pranam mantra, again the Panchatattva mantra, again the Maha mantra. No. In the beginning, you sang a bhajan, then you sang some Guru Pranam, some Panchatattva mantra, Maha mantra, then you sang another bhajan. Next time you can just sing Maha mantra. Understand? It's not a hard and fast thing that never changes, but it's the foundation of both bhajan, japa, kirtan. It's the foundation of all the vocalization, the Panchatattva Maha mantra it is called.
Tampoco no es que sea una regla estricta, cuadrada, que se tiene que seguir, pero sí para un programa, para el kirtan, se cata un vaya, que son las oraciones, después hacia el maestro espiritual, después el Panchatattva y Maha Mantra, pero si después se quiere cantar otros vayans más, entonces no es necesario hacer el mismo proceso para todo. Otra vez.